And we were talking about this earlier, so I'll kind of go back over some of that.
I'd love to.
That piece of the conversation started back in 2005, which was the same year as I wrote The Shack, the same year as I turned 50. 2004, we'd lost everything, but it was part of the healing process. And so at the beginning of the year, I suddenly realized that joy had become a constant companion, and I hadn't prayed for it. I wasn't looking for it. I never anticipated it. And it was like, what is this, right? Because I'd never had a constant sense of the presence of joy. It had just been very sporadic, and mostly, as Lewis would say, I'd get surprised by it. Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you must have made a mistake.
Yeah, me too.
So, I mean, joy, it's kind of like, well, I have this guest room on the inside of my soul for joy, but it never spent the night. So it's like, okay, I don't have a category for this. I don't understand it. I don't get this. And I'm kind of thinking, well, it's obviously not going to last, right? Because there had not been any really strong through line in terms of my emotional world, and to have joy become a constant presence. And that doesn't mean joy. And I want to make a distinction between happiness and joy. Happiness, the word hap is an old English word, and it means chance or luck. And so happenstance is luck. And happy means happy. You got good luck, right? And unhappy means bad luck, bad chance. So happiness is totally linked to external circumstances. I mean, when joy comes as a constant companion, we have nothing. We are living in a little rental house. We lost the house in '04 that we lived in for 17 years. And it's not like this is connected. I'm working 3 jobs, right? We lost our vehicles. I mean, we have nothing. And yet joy has become a constant companion. So it's not linked to circumstances. And I didn't even know how to talk about it. And I kind of didn't want to because I was afraid of maybe spook it off.
Yeah, lose it.
Yeah. So I'm in a conversation with Thad Hendricks, who's a friend of mine, and he's an artist, and he asks good questions, and I'm having breakfast, and it really felt like the 3 of us. I'm here, Thad's here, and Joy's here, and I'm trying to go, Thad, joy, right? And I'm explaining to him, he's going, what are you talking about? I'm going, joy's become a constant companion for 6 months now. And he goes, well, what changed at the beginning of the year? Which you'd think that's the obvious question, and I hadn't bothered to ask it. And I go, oh, let me think about that. And then I realized, you know what happened? The healing in our souls, and there's lots of times many of us are in a very reconstructive process. That is, our souls are damaged. They're hurt from history, from experience, from our childhood, from church, from betrayal, from all these things. And I really do believe that God wants to climb into that place and has climbed into that place and is healing us from the inside out. My 11-year journey that to me is the reconstruction of the shack, the house on the inside, had ended at the end of 2004 in a real defining sort of way. And 2005, I'm in this new space, and it's the year I'm turning 50, and I kind of have this change that's happening in my own heart, and I can sense it. But this 11-year journey, it took me, on top of the years of pieces before that, to get to the place in my life, the year I turned 50, where I finally felt that I could stay inside just one day. And that's where this grace for the day comes from. And what that means is, and I talked to my friend, I remember a conversation with Scott Klausner about it, and I'm going, I've realized that I have spent so much energy, emotional energy, on imaginations that don't even exist. And I coined a term for it, future tripping. That we have imaginations, and they're mostly fear-based. At least mine have been. And that is, let me think of everything that can possibly go wrong, right? And I have these scenarios in my head. And not just things that can go wrong, conversations that go wrong, or events that happen. And so, in my imagination, I've been to my own funeral. I've been to the funeral of my children for every reason, medical and otherwise, accidental and everything. I have lost all my jobs. I have ended up, and it was funny, is that I'm in 2005. A lot of those things that happened. I lost my, and I'm working 3 jobs, and we lost our house, and I'm going, it's all imagination. None of it's like real. How many of the things have I been, creating these scenarios about have actually happened? Very few. Not that none of them have, but a very few of them. And what I ended up spending my energy on and my focus on is that I have these imaginations that I'm constantly running to, and I'm trying to drag all of that fear of these imaginations back into my day, into the present. And then I'm trying to control my relationships so that those things don't happen. Right? And so it's like everything is about certainty and control, because I'm terrified, basically. And I'd stop doing that. But when you come from a history like mine, where you have learned through experience the perception that no one is trustworthy, no one, and you can use the language of trust with regard to God, but you don't actually trust God, because you don't actually know that He is for you, because it's all very conditional, and you got to earn your acceptance and His approval and His affection. And so you're only as good as your momentary perfection.
Yeah.
So and then you've learned from people the way you grow up that they violate and you can't trust them. So when you can't trust anyone, the only person you have is yourself, and so control becomes the way you deal with fear. And that's what I'd spent my time doing. And by the year I turned 50 years old, I finally had gotten to the place in the healing of my heart, in my own personal growth, where I actually had come to the place I'm believing that God is good all the time and trustworthy, that He's especially fond of me. He loves me like He is for me all the time, and it's not based on my performance. So in a sense, I had entered the world of a child, right? Because children, they live in the present. They're not thinking, okay, so what is my 5-year plan and what am I going to do when I get to kindergarten? It's not like that. It's like, hey, this is cool, let's do it again, right? And this world of being childlike, you can't live there unless you actually know that there's someone bigger than you who cares for you, who's taking care of you. And I've read all the verses. We all know them. Take no thought for tomorrow. Tomorrow has enough issues of its own. Sufficient to the day is the grace thereof. Take every empty imagination that raises itself up against the knowing of God. Right? The knowing of God, the character of God. Is He good all the time? Well, it's a little bit doubtful, so I can't trust Him. So, but take every thought captive, every empty imagination captive that raises itself up against the knowing of God. And all of this was saying, where you live and where God lives with you? It's in today. It's in this day. And at the beginning, and I don't know if it's a Jewish thing. I don't know if you get it at 6 in the evening and goes to 6 in the evening. I don't know. But for me, it's when I wake up in the morning and when I go to sleep at night. And I have no clue what the day is going to hold.
It is
And I'm okay
striking
with
how that is a beautiful description of the fall. Of what we've done is we've created out of our fear, we tarred Papa's face with the brush of our own anxiety. We've created a mythological God, and then we've got all these fears, and we're trying to figure out how to deal with it. So we invent a religion that's based on our fear. And it's like when you're describing this, how much bondage, how much energy is it? How much of our religion, our so-called religion, is really an expression of that, and how much time and energy we give to that.
Yeah.
We're enslaved by God talk.
And we are. And what had happened to me without even knowing it, and I think this is an important piece of this conversation. It took me all these years to get there. It wasn't like, I found the magic bullet and the new formula, and I just automatically thought the right way. A lot of different things in my life, issues with my dad, issues with the church, issues with growing up as a missionary kid, issues with abuse, all of those kinds of things had to be worked in my soul so that I could stay inside the grace of the day, right? And when I started doing that, joy, because in the presence, if you're in the presence, you experience the fullness of joy, right? And it's staying in the present. And I wrote about it, and I said, I read Joy's blog, and Joy wrote, in 2005, Paul began to be a constant companion rather than an occasional acquaintance, right? So it really wasn't Joy that was in and out. It was me. And I was running into imaginations that don't exist. I was running into these mythological, realities as if they're true. And now trying to control my world so that all this myth wouldn't happen. And it was taking up all my energy. And suddenly, I'm in the grace of the day. I'm experiencing joy, regardless of circumstance, which weren't always easy. Actually, a lot of it wasn't easy. But there's this through line of I'm at the end of the day, I'm tired. I'm not exhausted. I'm not like I'm trying to grip and hold everything together, and life. And then you begin to say, so this is what rest is. You work out of rest. You're experiencing rest. It's all the time. You live inside the rest of God because God gets to be God. I stopped playing that, And so those things are all connected with this grace of the day.
It's awesome.